So hi YouTubers, it's Roxanne Holland here from Rox's Cards and Crafts, and also your admin from Cricut Expression Facebook group, as well as the Cricut Connect Facebook group. I'm pretty excited. I've been excited for the last, say, week to bring you a technique that was discovered by a lady on another group who was also a member on the Cricut Expression group. She's on another group for Shortcuts a Lot 5, and it was for making dies out of an image that you created with your own stamp. So I'd rather not make this a long one, and without digressing, I'll get into this. But for the first steps, step 1 and 2, I want to show you what I was doing. So using a stamping tool, and here you can see I'm using my Misty. I've chosen this little dwarf, and I'll leave a link to him. I got him from Wish, so he is an unbranded stamp. Making sure that I'm using the Misty to make sure that I get a clear and a crisp, clean image. It did look pretty good there, but I thought I'd just make the outline a bit better. Now make sure there are no broken lines on the outline of your image. I'm only interested in you finding the outside of your image to be complete, not so much the inside. So we're just doing that, okay, and I'm happy with that. Now I did prepare one a bit earlier, and what I'm doing next is making the lines. So here you can see that I've put that stamped image, and using a thin pen, as long as it shows up well when you trace it, I'm just making sure here that my ruler is completely straight, and I'm making a mark. Now you can see that I've set the image to the right hand side of the page, not so much in the middle. And that will become clear why I did that when I show you about making a copy by way of a photo on your phone. I find the easiest, or you can also use your scanning machine as well. Okay, I've done that. So now I'm going to bring over my iPad, and I'm taking a photo with my iPad. You can also take a photo with your phone, but they work exactly the same, whatever you're used to doing. So that's a good shot. I've got good lighting because I do have a day natural filming light, but if you're having a problem with lighting, take it outside and take a photo. So go into the edit part, and you need to crop onto the white space and across there, making sure those lines are still visible. We need those lines that you just ruled onto your piece of paper to be visible. Right, so we're happy with that. Let's just save that, and then I'm going to email it to myself. And when you email it to yourself, it'll go straight to your downloads onto your computer. So the idea is to get it from your phone onto your computer so that you can import it when you hit the trace button in Shortcuts a Lot 5. Okay. So we've done that. So now we're going to move on to step 3. I'll just quickly show you. So this is the image by bringing it in with the trace feature. We chose the image so we know where we put the image. So if you aren't very good at knowing where your image goes into your computer, just leave it in the downloads. That's what I do because I only use it the once and then I go and I delete it. We're going to select mode and monochrome, update preview and select OK. So I'll leave these step-by-steps there for you when you want to know exactly what it was that I was doing, but I am going to go through and do this live for you. Then I talk about sizing these lines. Okay. Then we make this into a shadow. Okay, so I'm going to select a new page and I'm going to do exactly all that without having to take you through the step by step. So you've learned how to bring it in, you've learned how to take a photo, you've learned how to email it to yourself. Now you're ready for the next stage. So let's hit the trace button up the top there and go to choose image, and like I said, I've got it in downloads. There it is. I'm using the mode monochrome, and all I'm going to do is select update preview and then press OK. And that's all you really need to do there. And next step is if you hold the arrow in the corner, any corner, doesn't matter what corner, whatever corner you're used to, I'm used to that, holding down the shift key on your computer's keyboard, and we're going to move that in until we think that these red lines match the lines of the grid of the virtual mat. So play around with that a bit. You can move that in a little bit like there. See how that one's a bit crooked? It's not the end of the world, but this is why I line the ruler up on both sides on my grid mat to make sure that they're nice and even. Now you can use your nudge arrows over here. It might be a little bit easier. So let's just make sure that that red line is, so you can see what's happening there. The lines that we brought in are the measurements, or the true real size measurements of this stamp. So in order to it to cut out perfectly, we need to size those lines perfectly on the virtual grid. So I'll just keep talking until that's perfect. That's pretty good. I don't know why I managed to get a crooked line, but as I said, it's not the end of the earth. Now we can zoom in, of course. Probably would have been better off me doing that in the first place. And this is why I don't want these lines to be too thick. I'm alright with that. Alright, so I'm not alright with that one. And I'm going to bring this one in. Go to my selection tool. Just bring that in a little bit more. Move it over, keep moving it over until it's perfect. So I'm working on the vertical one here. Yeah, I'm not going to play with it too much more. Yeah, let's go back up there. Don't want to play with it too much, but this is where you will need to practice. I think I practiced for 3 days. Alright, so let's go back out. So what you need to do is selection tool. So while it's selected, if it's not, make sure you select, so there's a little bit up here it needs going. While it's selected, I need you to go to Object and then Break Apart. And I want you to select, this is why I move the image over to the right. So I want you to select all the things that we don't need and delete them, and that one as well. So we're left with, if we went into View, we're left with all these separate, but we want the outside only. So go to View and go Normal. Highlight him again, go to Path, and then go Union. So he's all one now. It's all been welded together. If you want to keep the image of the original one, or then I suggest you make a copy and then do the Break Apart and then Union. While he's highlighted, we go to Effects, Shadow Layer, Contour Cut. We're going to put that on 100. Just for now, that's what works. I'm just going to change the colour for easy reference. And we don't need the black one, we need this little guy. So I put all my images to cut down the bottom right hand side. It's something that I've always done since I started using the Cricut Expression. And that is because when it spits out the matte and your image is up there, you have to stand up and check that it cut properly. I mean, I know my machine pretty well now anyway, so I know it will cut. I'm using about 210 GSM for my cardstock. My pressure is on high and my blade is on 6 when I cut this out. Okay, so moving on to the final steps. We don't need this guy, he's the original shadow, and we've done the offset. And I've put it down the 1111 axis of my pad, and I'm going to go over to my phone, and you probably don't need to see me cutting this, but it's always nice to see a final outcome. There'll be those that said, will probably say, should have shown us the finished product, so I will show you the finished product. So with this highlighted, go to Cutter, Cut with Cricut, and I've got cut selection only. So remember I said at the beginning, with that highlighted, that's the selection. If that wasn't ticked and I didn't have, hang on, let's go cancel, and that wasn't selected, right? So now if I went Cutter, Cut with Cricut, they would both cut out. So it's always good to have the cut selection only. Alright, and let's go cancel. So let's select the one we want to cut. You can hide him by going over there and just hiding the eye over in the layers section. So I'll load my mat to my machine. We're going to select cut and off we go. Okay, and I'm just going to unload the mat. Okay, so I've just taken the mat out of the machine and I'm going to leave the image on there. So this is a pretty new mat, so I'm just going to turn it over and roll that gently off, which is a much easier way of taking your cardstock off a nice sticky mat. Oh, it's a standard grip. Okay, now, if you had a wooden block, you'd be using a Stamp-A-Majig. So you would just stamp the image from your wooden block. So you put it in, take your wooden block and stamp your image. All right, and then you would measure up your image. All right, take that off, ink up, and then press down. But because this is a clear stamp, I prefer just to get my eyes and rely on my, what am I trying to say? I'm pretty good at lining things up. And this is why I give it such a good border around it. All right, so give it a good ink. Have your little smooch ready. And hope you can see where I'm lining that up. That looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to gently put it down. Just give it a gentle but firm rub, so you're not rocking the stamp. And so you're not pressing down too hard because you'll get a ghosting effect on the lines. And then lift it straight off. Now he wasn't perfect, and that's the first one out of so many today that wasn't perfect. But I'm not going to do it again. And there is the final image. So you can bring that shadow that I had 100 on, you can start bringing it in more as you feel comfortable, but this is a good way to get to practice where to position your stamp. So try maybe 80 or 90. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to take this away. As I just had a bit of a glare. But this is, let's just take that away. This is the stamp set, and I got this off Wish. So I'll leave a link to the stamp set for you in the description box below. But if you Google gnomes on the Wish site, there are some pretty really, really good and cheap stamps there as well. This was actually in a magazine. I couldn't find if it was actually done by a particular company. It was in a magazine, so it is a good little stamp. So I hope that helps someone. Please like, share and subscribe. Especially subscribe, because that way it encourages me to do more for you where it comes to the legacy expression machines, or also Expression 2, Create, all those older machines. If you don't know of our Cricut Expression group, I'll leave a link below and you can come and join. Also, if you're deciding that you want to buy a newer model, you can come over and join my other group, Cricut Connect, which I'll also leave a link in the description below. So thank you for joining me again today. I hope that helps someone.